Neither Iran or the United States want to fight each other. It's the Israelis who have been trying to pull the Iranians and the Americans into a fight.
Netanyahu's greatest dream in life is a war between the United States and Iran.
Netanyahu will drag him into the abyss. He wants this war in the Middle East come hell or high water, and it's not in their interest. What war? The war with Iran.
We don't want to go to war against Iran. I don't think we should be fighting wars on behalf of Israel.
Make it clear to Netanyahu that you should not be dragging America into war with Iran.
You go fight Iran. We are American people. It's not our problem.
If they start talking to you about fighting a war with Iran, you treat them like an enemy that they are.
We should not go to war in Iran on behalf of Israel.
Against the war with Iran. It's not in America's interest, and many Americans will die, and billions will be spent on a war we don't need to fight.
Everybody wants peace, except Israel.
If you live in America, who can't you criticize? Who can't you criticize in America? An easy way to know if you are controlled. Is there somebody or something that you're not allowed to criticize? If you lived in Nazi Germany, you couldn't criticize the Nazi Party. If you lived in the Soviet Union, you couldn't criticize the Communist Party of Russia. If you live in China right now, you can't criticize the Chinese Communist Party. If you live in North Korea, you can't criticize Kim Jong-un. If you live in America, who can't you criticize? Who can't you criticize in America?
The lobby.
Yes.
On both sides.
Right.
That's right. You're not. The fact that we're having this discussion and we're on the edge. Why are we on the edge? Because we're touching the third rail. We're breaking the taboo. You're not allowed to discuss the power of the Israeli lobby in America. That's proof right there. They control America. That's who's controlling free speech in this country.
You're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel. There are Chinese Jews. I've met them. There are Vietnamese Jews. I've met them. They're not native to the land of Palestine. There are African Jews. They're not native to the land of Palestine either. There are Ashkenazi Jews who are entirely European in their DNA. That's why you're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel, because it will reveal that virtually none of them are Semitic, virtually none of them have any ancestral connection to the land.
Of course, war is horrible, so why did the Palestinians initiate this war on October 7th?
Well, they didn't. They didn't. This war has been going on for 75 years. Israel initiated it in 1948 by ethnically cleansing 750,000 people. This is what you need to understand. The people in Gaza, over 80% of them are refugees from a place called Majdal Asqalon in what is now southern Israel, in a city called Ashkelon. And they were dragged from their homes and driven from their homes, placed in prison camps, barbed wire prison camps, and then dumped in trucks in 1950 into the Gaza Strip, where they would be permanently warehoused. And then Israel proceeded to move Jewish refugees and Russians into Ashkelon to prevent them from ever coming back. So this didn't come out of a vacuum. You're not going to be able to hold people under siege, cut them off from the world, and then expect them to just play along.
Why did the Germans hate the Jews? No reason. They needed a scapegoat. The economy was falling. They needed a scapegoat. There were no real underlying reasons. But if you read in Mein Kampf, and it's true there are things that are contradictory and things that are that, but there were a real sense, for real or not, of threat to European society, to European culture, to Western culture, coming from Jewish civilization. What they identified as Jewish civilization. In other words, what was the war? When you read Mein Kampf, in the mind of Hitler, who was obviously the one who understood European psyche, what do we see there? The war was a war against the Jews. That's what they tell you also, like even at the end of the war when the Russians were advancing and Hitler continued to have trains bring Jews from Greece
at the expense
of them going to the Eastern Front. War against the Jews. That's the way that this was built. A war against the Jews. Why was there a war against the Jews? It wasn't only as a scapegoat. I think it's a very shallow, superficial way to look at it. The war was a clash of civilizations. In other words, there was something in European civilization that said the Jews are a threat, not a fake threat, not a pretend threat, a real threat. And what we're afraid to admit, and I think this is our failure, is that he's right.
All of Donald Trump's children are either married to or dating Jews. All of them. The most famous of his kids, Ivanka Trump, she married Jared Kushner, who's Jewish, and she converted to Judaism herself. She actually took a Jewish name, Yael Trump. Her kids, Trump's grandkids, are Jewish. They probably call him Zadie. But it's not just Ivanka. Donald Jr. is married to Vanessa Hayden, who's Jewish. Eric Trump is married to Lara Yunaska, who's Jewish. They married under a Jewish chuppah or wedding canopy at Mar-a-Lago.
איראן תשלם מחיר יקר מאוד על רצח אזרחים, נשים, ילדים, שהם עשו בכוונה תחילה.
Iran has never attacked a neighbor. Israel has repeatedly attacked its neighbors. Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has refused to sign. Iran submits to inspection by the International Nuclear Energy Agency. Israel refuses to submit. Iran has no nuclear weapons. Israel has between 75 and 400 nuclear weapons. So Israel poses an existential threat to Iran. For the last 40 years, Israel has conducted a systematic campaign of disinformation about Iran. Why the lies? Why the double standards? Why the hypocrisy?
Is there anything positive about Israel? Is there anything positive about this country, or everything is bad? Are we the vicious? Are we the evil one? I'm asking you a question. You are a journalist covering between Israel and Gaza.
Right now, your prime minister has an arrest warrant against him.
By the way,
for
one
war
of the
crimes, okay.
Imagine
for starving a population. Your heritage minister, Amichai Lahu, said nuking Gaza was an option and called for methods more painful than death for Palestinians. More journalists are killed in Gaza than in both world wars, Vietnam, the former Yugoslavia, and Afghanistan combined, according to the Watson Institute's Cost of War project. As a former journalist and editor, can you explain to us why Israel is killing Palestinian journalists on a mass scale?